Mr. Michael Ejiofor joins us now, former director with SSS. Thank you for coming on today on the program. Well, we heard the IGP yesterday. We played again that particular film today where he was talking about anyone who has any intention whatsoever to compromise elections will be dealt with. Let's start with taking a look at pre-election matters and the way they've been going about it. Many have raised questions, questioning how security agencies have responded, chief of them, the police, with this one. So they then ask, okay, shouldn't we judge them by what we've seen them do in terms of how they will respond during and after the elections?
Well, you see, the statement from the IG as relayed here, it's actually long overdue because our politicians have overheated the policy for a very long while through hate speeches. You see, elections are, in terms of security, are divided in three segments: the pre, during, and after elections. Before the election, we've had series of incidents bordering on breach of peace. You recall what happened in Port Harcourt. You also recall what happened during the campaign of Mr. President when he was doomed in some of the states. And some provocative statements being made from both divide the two major political parties, because not only PDP and APC that constitute all the political parties in Nigeria, but we've not had a very organized, strong opposition as we have now. The PDP wants to remain in power because they've been in power. The APC is doing everything possible to unseat the government. So I think that is what is the hitting of the polity. Go straight to your question. I think the police IG was right in his statement he made, because you recall that a week before the 14th of the earlier scheduled election, the tension was very, very high and palpable. Everybody could see it. Now, in the next 1 week, we are going to see escalation of hostilities and temper rising again.
Did you feel the effect of the police at that time, and do you think we will now?
Yeah, well, we did to some extent, because some incidents were investigated that I'm aware of, and there are other issues on the ground being investigated by the state security, for instance. It's only when these things come to the fore that you talk of issue of prosecution. But I believe that the police is also doing its best so far in terms of checking violence. But they must be up in their game now as we approach the election. It's less than 10 days. So we expect political activities, the tempo of political activities to come up with both hate speeches and provocative utterances from the politicians.
If we haven't successfully prosecuted, say, 80%, as they put it, of electoral offenders, do you think this statement wouldn't just be same old kind of conversation before elections?
Well, statements, like you said, yes. Statements are capable of inflaming passions and making the polity heated up. But
I mean the warning that the IGP gave.
Yes.
Because many will look to that and say, well, if I did something wrong during the elections and I wasn't prosecuted, what makes them think I won't do it again because I've done it before and it worked?
That's the point. I don't want to... I discuss security. There are many statements that have been made that led to death of a lot of people in this country, post-election violence. And no one was prosecuted. So we need to do more in terms of prosecution of offenders. You see, but I think we are getting matured, because if it was in the previous republic, the incidents, the violent incidents would have been more. But I think because of the pact, the peace pact signed by both parties, I think it's getting less. I think that's...
so you believe that it's actually had
it would have been worse than this. It would have been worse than this. But I also expect the political leaders, because it's their body language that determine what the followers do. the leaders, the main leaders, prominent leaders, should guide their statements. I think that will, the followers will now take you from their leaders. But when the leaders are making provocative statements, the followers will also join them.
Let me say it would have been worse than this. I'm sure most people would agree with you, but again, they will also say to you it would have been much more better than this if some of these people had been properly cautioned. You know, there's a tradition of having to invite some of these people in times past. When you go for campaign rallies, you drop some hate speeches or insightful comments, irrespective of who you are. There's so many of them, and these are people with no immunity. So one wonders why some of them have not been cautioned or invited by the agencies.
Well, you see, another problem, the restraint the security agencies are having is that if you do invite somebody from APC that for making hate speech, it will be turned political. If you invite people from PDP, they say government will not do anything about it. So I think the agencies are caught in between
But they have to do something.
They have to do something, I agree. So there will be some kind of moderation on part of the security agency, otherwise they will be accused of politicizing the issue. One important thing that I have continued to emphasize is that political offenders, our law should be amended. That political offenders will be given some terms of not just sanctions, but the sanction that will make it almost like in criminal law. If you are convicted of any criminal offense, you don't hold public office for 10 years. But this is a situation, somebody benefits from electoral fraud, you nullify the election, and the person is going back for election. So when you make it stringent that people should not contest election for 10 years having been convicted of that particular offense, electoral fraud, I think we should start learning from that, and people will begin to think twice before they do certain things.
Because I recall the DSS at a certain time did something that we thought was fantastic. They said, okay, this is it. For everyone that has erred, you have a clean slate. From now onwards, if you make this kind of mistake, we'll summon you. But we thought that by now we have seen a couple of people that have made such comments. And now, going back to what you said about it being turned political, generally, as you put it, we must make a move. And if we don't, it's not for the good of the country. We haven't done well in that regard, have we?
Well, I think we have. Just that, like you said, we recall the issue of when Asari was invited. People started raising questions. Why must he be invited? There were people who made statements that led to violence and loss of lives and property. They were not invited. So it becomes selective. So the point I'm making is that Nigeria, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. We are in a very sensitive position, so the security agency is still on their part, but very cautious in handling certain issues. Otherwise, we have a greater crisis.